Hello, and welcome to Learn English Today, the channel that helps you improve your English step by step. I'm so happy to have you here today because we are going to talk about something really important for learning English: inputs and outputs. These two things are the key to speaking and understanding English better. And in this episode, I'll show you exactly how they work and why they are so powerful. Now you might be wondering, what are inputs and outputs, and why do they matter for my English learning? Well, don't worry. I'll explain everything in a simple and easy way. Whether you're just starting your English learning journey, or you've been learning for a while, this episode will help you understand how to train your brain to think in English naturally. Before we dive in, I want you to take a moment and think about how you learned your first language as a child. Did you study grammar rules first? Did you memorize long lists of words? Number? You simply listened and absorbed what people around you were saying. You heard your parents talk. You watched people interact. And little by little, you started to understand. Then one day you spoke your first words. That's the power of input. It fills your brain with the language. And when you finally start speaking, that's output, using what you have learned. Now imagine if you could apply this same method to English. Imagine if learning English could be as natural and smooth as learning your first language. Well, the good news is you can. And today, I'm going to show you exactly how. Many English learners feel stuck. They watch videos, they read books, they listen to English speakers. But when it's time to speak, they feel nervous or don't know what to say. If this sounds like you, then you're in the right place. This episode is designed to help you break free from that struggle by understanding how to balance input and output in a way that actually improves your fluency. This is not just about learning more English. It's about using English in real life. Because at the end of the day, we don't just learn English to pass a test. We learn it to communicate, to express ourselves, and to connect with others. And I want to help you do that with confidence. What to expect? So, what can you expect in today's episode? Well, here's what we'll cover. What is input? Why listening and reading are the foundation of language learning. What is output? How speaking and writing help you become fluent. How to balance input and output so you don't just understand English but actually use it. Common mistakes that slow down your progress and how to avoid them. Practical tips you can start using today to improve your English faster. I promise by the end of this episode, you will have a clear strategy for learning English in a way that actually works. So stay with me until the end, because you don't want to miss these powerful techniques. If you're serious about improving your English, this episode is going to be transformative for you. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to Learn English Today so you never miss an episode. All right, let's get started and dive into the world of English inputs and outputs. Understanding input. Before diving into what English inputs are, let's walk through the Cambridge Dictionary definition of input. According to the Cambridge Dictionary, the word input refers to something such as energy, money, or information that is put into a system, organization, or machine so that it can operate. In language learning, input means the English that you receive and absorb, mainly through listening and reading. It is the information that enters your brain and helps you understand the language before you can use it in speaking or writing. Example of input in language learning. Imagine a child learning their first language. Before they start speaking, they spend months just listening to their parents, watching their expressions, and hearing words repeatedly. Over time, their brain collects enough input, and one day they start saying words like mama or dog. The same thing happens when learning English as a second language. If you listen to English podcasts, watch movies, and read books, your brain stores new words, phrases, and grammar structures. Later, when you start speaking, you naturally use what you have learned. Let me give you another example. Victoria wants to improve her English. Every day, she listens to an English podcast for 20 minutes and reads a short news article. At first, she doesn't understand everything, but over time, her brain absorbs new words and phrases. After a few months, she notices that she can understand conversations more easily and even use some of the phrases she heard in her own speaking. Input is the first step to fluency. The more English you listen to and read, the easier it becomes to think, speak, and write naturally. So keep exposing yourself to English every day. Why input is the foundation. Imagine trying to build a house without bricks. Sounds impossible, right? The same goes for learning English. Input is like the bricks. It gives you the materials you need to form sentences, express thoughts, and communicate naturally. Many English learners struggle because they don't get enough input. They focus too much on grammar exercises and memorizing words without actually hearing or seeing those words used in real conversations. This can make English feel unnatural or difficult to recall when speaking. The more input you get, the more automatic English becomes. Instead of thinking about grammar rules while speaking, you will naturally form correct sentences, just like how native speakers do. This is why input is the foundation of fluency. The more you expose yourself to English, the more your brain absorbs it, making speaking and writing much easier. Types of input. Not all input is the same. There are two main types of input: passive input and active input. Both are useful, but understanding the difference will help you use them effectively. Passive input. Background listening, watching, without focusing. Passive input happens when you listen or read English without fully paying attention. This can include playing an English podcast while cooking or driving, watching a movie with subtitles but not focusing on the words, or having English music in the background. This type of input is useful because it keeps your brain exposed to English sounds and rhythm, even if you don't understand everything. Over time, your ears get used to the natural flow of English, making it easier to recognize words and phrases. However, passive input alone is not enough. While it helps you become familiar with English, it won't make you fluent unless you also practice active input. Active input. Listening attentively. Reading with focus. Active input happens when you fully concentrate on what you're listening to or reading. This means listening carefully to an English podcast and trying to understand every word, watching an English video without subtitles, and paying attention to how sentences are formed, or reading an English book and looking up new words to understand their meaning. Active input is powerful because it forces your brain to process English deeply. When you actively listen or read, you notice patterns, new words, and how sentences are structured. This makes it easier to remember and use what you learn in real conversations. To improve your English quickly, you should combine both passive and active input. Passive input helps you get used to English naturally, while active input helps you understand and remember new things better. How much input is necessary? A common question is, how much input do I need to improve? The answer depends on how often and how well you expose yourself to English. But let's look at some estimates. If you listen to 30 minutes of English every day, you'll see improvement in about 3 to 6 months. If you read for 15 minutes daily, your vocabulary and sentence structure will improve in a few months. If you combine 1 hour of listening and 30 minutes of reading daily, you can reach a conversational level in about a year. These numbers aren't strict rules, but they show one thing clearly. The more input you get, the faster you improve. If you want to become fluent, aim for at least 1 hour of English input every day. Input is the fuel for your English learning journey. Without it, you won't have the materials needed to speak and write confidently. Understanding output. Now, let's learn about English outputs. According to the Cambridge Dictionary, the word output means the amount of something that is produced by a person, machine, or system. In language learning, output refers to the English that you produce mainly through speaking and writing. It is how you express your thoughts and ideas after receiving input. Without output, you might understand English but struggle to communicate effectively. Example of output in language learning. Imagine a musician who listens to a lot of songs but never plays an instrument. They might recognize music but won't be able to create their own. Similarly, in English, if you only listen and read but never practice speaking or writing, you will understand the language but won't be able to use it fluently. Let me give you another example. Marcus has been watching English films for months. He understands many words but feels nervous when speaking. To improve, he starts practicing speaking out loud every day and writing a short journal in English. At first, he makes mistakes, but with time, he becomes more confident and fluent in expressing his ideas. Output is necessary for fluency. The more you speak and write, the more comfortable you become with using English in real situations. So don't be afraid to practice every day. Mistakes are part of the learning process. Why output is necessary for fluency? Output means producing English rather than just understanding it. There are two main types of output. Speaking, using your voice to communicate in English. This includes conversations, answering questions, giving presentations, or even thinking out loud in English. And writing, expressing thoughts through text. This includes writing essays, emails, social media posts, or even keeping a personal journal in English. Think of output as a workout for your brain. Just as athletes train their muscles to get stronger, you need to practice speaking and writing to strengthen your ability to use English naturally. Without output, you may understand English well, but you might struggle to express yourself when needed. That's why practicing output regularly is essential. Imagine you are learning how to cook. You watch videos, read recipes, and observe professional chefs. However, if you never actually get into the kitchen, can you truly learn how to cook? No, you have to practice. The same rule applies to English. Fluency doesn't come from just listening and reading. It comes from using the language. Here's why output is essential. It helps you remember more. When you speak or write, you force your brain to recall vocabulary and grammar rules. This strengthens your memory and helps you remember words more easily. It builds confidence. The more you use English, the more comfortable you become. Over time, you will feel less nervous when speaking in real situations. It highlights your weaknesses. When you speak or write, you realize which words or grammar rules you struggle with. This helps you focus on improving those areas. It trains you to think in English. Speaking and writing regularly help your brain process ideas in English, reducing the need to translate from your native language. Many learners avoid speaking because they feel shy or afraid of making mistakes. But mistakes are part of the learning process. The more you practice, the better you will become. Types of output. Just like input, output comes in different forms. There are two main types, planned output and spontaneous output. Planned output. Writing essays, preparing presentations. Planned output happens when you prepare before using English. This includes writing an essay for an exam, preparing a presentation for work or school, or drafting an email to a colleague or friend. Planned output is great for organizing your thoughts and improving your writing skills. Since you have time to think, you can focus on using correct grammar, new vocabulary, and clear sentence structures. One effective way to practice planned output is keeping a daily journal in English. Writing a few sentences every day about your thoughts, experiences, or plans can help you improve your ability to express yourself clearly. Spontaneous output. Speaking without preparation, casual conversations. Spontaneous output happens when you use English in the moment without preparation. This includes talking to a friend in English, answering a question in class without thinking too much, or speaking English while shopping or traveling. This type of output is essential for fluency, because in real life, you don't always have time to plan your words. Spontaneous speaking forces you to think quickly in English, which helps you respond naturally. At first, speaking without preparation can feel difficult. You might forget words or make mistakes, but that's okay. The more you practice, the easier it gets. A great way to improve spontaneous speaking is by talking to yourself in English. Try describing what you are doing or thinking out loud. For example, if you are preparing a meal, you can say, "Now I'm chopping the vegetables. I need to heat the water." This helps you practice forming sentences naturally. Balancing input and output. Some learners focus too much on input, listening and reading, but avoid output, speaking and writing. Others try to speak and write a lot, but don't get enough input. To improve quickly, you need a balance between both. Here's a simple guideline to follow. Spend most of your time listening and reading, but also practice speaking and writing regularly. Practice output every day. Even if it's just for a few minutes, try to speak or write something in English daily. Use what you learn. If you learn a new word or phrase from a book, try using it in a conversation or writing it in a sentence. Think of language learning as a cycle. Input, listening and reading. You absorb new words, phrases and grammar. Output, speaking and writing. You use what you have learned, which helps you remember it better. The more you repeat this cycle, the faster you will improve. Example: schedules for different learners. For students, students usually have more time to study English, so they can include more focused learning in their routine. Morning input. Listen to an English podcast for 15 minutes while getting ready. Afternoon output. After classes, write a short paragraph about what you learned today. Evening input and output. Watch a TV show in English for 30 minutes and repeat some sentences aloud. For working professionals, workers have busy schedules, but they can still practice English by using their free time wisely. Morning input. Listen to an audiobook or podcast on the way to work, 20 minutes. Lunch break output. Write a short message or email in English to practice writing. Evening input and output. Watch an English video for 20 minutes and summarize it aloud in your own words. For very busy people, even if you have a very tight schedule, you can still practice English in small ways. Morning input. Read an English quote or news headline for 5 minutes. During the day, think in English while doing daily activities, e.g., now I am making coffee. Evening output. Record a 1-minute voice message in English about your day. Common mistakes and how to avoid them. Learning English is a journey, and like any journey, there are obstacles along the way. Many learners make common mistakes that slow down their progress without realizing it. Mistake number 1. Too much input, too little output, or vice versa. Many learners only focus on input. They listen to English podcasts, watch TV shows, and read books, but they never practice speaking or writing. This is a big problem because understanding English is not the same as using it. If you never produce English, you will struggle to communicate when it's time to speak or write. On the other hand, some learners focus too much on output. They try to speak all the time, but don't spend enough time listening or reading. This can cause poor sentence structures and limited vocabulary because they don't learn enough from native speakers. How to fix it? Follow the 1-to-1 rule. For every 10 minutes of listening or reading, try to speak or write for at least 10 minutes. Summarize what you learn. After listening to a podcast, talk about it in your own words. After reading an article, write a short summary. Use English in daily life. If you hear a new phrase, try using it in a conversation or writing it in a sentence. By balancing both input and output, you will develop all language skills effectively. Mistake number 2. Over-reliance on passive input. Passive input means listening or watching English without paying full attention. Many learners play English videos in the background while doing other tasks. While this can be helpful, it is not enough to improve fluency because the brain is not actively processing the language. How to fix it? Turn passive input into active learning. Instead of just watching a video, repeat words and phrases aloud. Try the shadowing technique. Repeat after the speaker. Take notes. Write down useful expressions from podcasts or TV shows and use them later. Engage with the content. If you watch a YouTube video, leave a comment in English. If you read an article, write a short opinion about it. When you actively listen and read, your brain absorbs more and you improve faster. Mistake number 3. Fear of making mistakes in output. Many learners are afraid to speak or write because they don't want to make mistakes. This fear stops them from practicing, which slows down their progress. The truth is, mistakes are a natural part of learning. Even native speakers make mistakes. Imagine a child learning to walk. They fall many times, but they don't stop trying. That's how we all learn, through trial and error. How to fix it? Accept that mistakes are normal. Instead of being afraid of mistakes, see them as learning opportunities. Every mistake helps you improve. Practice with a supportive partner. Find a language partner or tutor who encourages you to speak without fear. Record yourself speaking. Listen to your own voice and notice areas where you can improve over time. This will build confidence. Write daily, even if it's simple. Start with short sentences. Over time, your writing will improve. The more you practice, the more confident you will become. Don't let fear stop you from using English. Practical strategy for success. A perfect English learning routine includes both listening and reading input, and speaking and writing output. Here's what to do. Absorb new words and sentence structures through input. Use what you learn to make it active through output. Practice daily, even if just for a few minutes. Choose fun and interesting topics to stay motivated. Your challenge. Right now, make a simple plan. How will you practice both input and output this week? Write it down and start today. You have everything you need to take your English to the next level. Remember, fluency is not about being perfect. It's about communicating and improving step by step. Keep going, keep practicing, and most importantly, believe in yourself. Final thoughts. We have covered a lot in this lesson, and I hope you now have a clear understanding of how English inputs and outputs work together to help you learn the language effectively. The most important thing is to start applying what you've learned today. Knowledge is powerful, but only if you use it. If you keep listening to podcasts, watching videos, and reading books without practicing speaking or writing, your progress will be slow. But if you make a simple plan and start practicing a little bit every day, you will see huge improvements over time. Remember, it's okay to make mistakes. Every mistake is a step toward fluency. Stay consistent. Even 10 to 15 minutes of practice each day is better than nothing. Enjoy the process. Learning English should be fun. Watch things you love. Talk about topics that interest you and challenge yourself in a positive way. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode. Keep practicing, keep improving, and believe in your journey.